An arrogant tourist unleashes his vicious bulldog to attack a stoic security guard. But the dog charges towards a terrified child. In a flash, a silent man, Steven Seagal, steps into its path, ready to face the beast. The lobby of the Corinthian, one of London's most opulent five-star hotels, was a symphony of quiet luxury. The air was a carefully curated blend of fresh-cut lilies, expensive perfume, and the faint, clean scent of polished marble. A string quartet played softly in a far corner, their music a silken thread weaving through the hushed conversations of the world's elite. At the grand main entrance, standing perfectly still, was a man who seemed both an integral part of the hotel's security and utterly alien to its lavishness. He was tall and imposing, dressed in the hotel's understated but impeccably tailored security uniform, a dark, high-collared jacket with a discreet hotel crest, black trousers, and polished black shoes. He was older, his stern, weathered face framed by a neat salt and pepper beard and a dark ponytail pulled back with severe precision. To the wealthy guests who swept past, he was just another fixture, a stoic guardian paid to be an invisible wall of authority. They did not know they were looking at Steven Seagal. The hotel's owner, an old friend, had grown concerned about security vulnerabilities that his high-priced corporate teams couldn't seem to identify. Seagal, as a favor and a personal challenge, had agreed to a unique consultation. He would spend a week on the ground, working a post himself, to feel the hotel's rhythm, to see its weaknesses not as a consultant, but as a warrior. From his motionless post, he was conducting a silent, deep assessment, his keen martial artist senses taking in everything, the flow of foot traffic, the sightlines from the street, the subtle tells of the staff, the nervous tics of the guests. He was a master of a different art, applying his understanding of energy, intention, and conflict to this temple of wealth. The harmony of the lobby was jarringly disrupted by the arrival of Marcus Reed. Reed was new money, and he wore it like ill-fitting armor. His clothes were outrageously expensive but lacked taste, his watch was a brick of gold and diamonds, and his voice was a loud, boorish instrument designed to command attention. But his ultimate status symbol trotted at his side on a thick leather leash, Cupcake, a prize-winning English bulldog whose powerful, muscular frame seemed to vibrate with contained aggression. Reed strode to the concierge desk, demanding immediate arrangements for a private shopping experience at Harrods. The young concierge, polite but firm, explained that such arrangements required at least an hour's notice. Reed's face flushed with anger. He wasn't accustomed to being denied anything. "Do you know who I am?" he boomed, causing several nearby guests to look over in annoyance. "I can certainly try to expedite the request, sir," the concierge replied calmly. Frustrated and feeling his authority challenged, Reed's angry gaze swept the lobby, looking for a target on which to vent his displeasure. His eyes landed on Seagal, the silent, unmoving guard at the door. He saw not a man, but a symbol of the service class that had just inconvenienced him. A cruel smirk spread across his face. He jerked the bulldog's leash. "Come on, Cupcake," he said, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "Let's go say hello to the glorified doorman." Marcus Reed approached Seagal with a predator's deliberate swagger, his bulldog, Cupcake, trotting ahead, the leash held tight. He stopped a few feet from Seagal's post, looking him up and down with a theatrical sneer. "Tough job you've got here, pal," Reed began, his voice dripping with condescension. "Standing around all day looking mean. Must take years of training to get that 'don't bother me' look just right." Seagal remained perfectly still, his eyes fixed on a point somewhere over Reed's shoulder, his expression unchanged. His training was, in fact, taking over. His discipline demanded he not engage with a belligerent guest, to de-escalate through non-reaction. Reed, infuriated by the silence, turned to his dog. "See, Cupcake. This is what they call security. A statue in a suit. I bet you could run right past him and he wouldn't even blink." He pulled out his phone and started a live social media broadcast. "Hey everyone, Marcus Reed here at the Corinthian, where the security is apparently taking a nap. Say hello to the sleeping giant." He shoved the phone towards Seagal's face. Seagal didn't react. He didn't even seem to notice. His stillness was a void, and it was driving Reed mad. "You think you're too good to talk to me?" Reed snarled, his voice dropping. He began to use the dog more directly. He would let the leash go slack, allowing Cupcake to lunge forward, the dog's deep growl echoing in the marble lobby. Then, at the last second, he would yank the leash hard, pulling the powerful dog back. "Easy, boy," he'd say with a cruel laugh. "Not yet." Several guests, alarmed by the snarling dog, moved away, their faces pale. A hotel manager started to approach, but Reed shot him a look so venomous that the man hesitated, reaching for his radio instead. Seagal, through it all, remained a pillar of calm. But his mind was a whirlwind of analysis. He wasn't watching Reed, he was watching the dog. He saw the conflict in the animal's eyes. Cupcake was agitated, responding to his owner's unstable energy, but he wasn't inherently vicious. His lunges were hesitant, his growls more confused than aggressive. Seagal recognized the signs of a well-bred animal being deliberately tormented into a state of aggression by an unworthy master. Reed, mistaking Seagal's analytical stillness for fear, was emboldened. He was getting the reaction he wanted, not from the guard, but from the terrified onlookers. He felt powerful. "All right, folks," he announced to his phone and the shrinking crowd. "Time for the main event. This dog, he only respects a true alpha. Let's see if our rent-a-cop here has what it takes, or if he's just an empty uniform." He looked directly at Seagal, his eyes glinting with malice. "Last chance to run, old man." Seagal didn't move. His silence was the ultimate act of defiance, a complete negation of Marcus Reed's existence. For Reed, a man whose entire identity was built on being noticed, on being feared, this was an intolerable insult. The last thread of his self-control snapped. "You want to ignore me?" he screamed, his face turning a blotchy red. "Fine. Ignore this." With a dramatic, theatrical flourish for his online audience, his thumb found the metal clasp on the Bulldog's thick leather leash. The sound of the clip releasing, a small metallic click, echoed through the now silent lobby with the finality of a judge's gavel. "Get him, Cupcake!" Reed roared, pointing a trembling, enraged finger at the still motionless Seagal. The crowd gasped. A woman screamed. The hotel manager, speaking frantically into his radio, began backing away, ushering guests behind him. They were witnessing the unthinkable, a man deliberately unleashing a powerful, agitated animal on another human being in the lobby of a five-star hotel. It was an act of pure, sociopathic malice. The Bulldog, suddenly free from the restraint of the leash, was a coiled spring of confused, aggressive energy. It hesitated for a split second, its powerful head swiveling between its raging owner and the silent, unmoving figure before it. Reed screamed the command again. "I said, get him." The dog's training, warped by its owner's abuse, took over. It let out a deep, rumbling growl and charged. But it did not charge at Steven Seagal. Perhaps it was Seagal's utter lack of fear, the absence of any scent of prey. Perhaps it was the dog's own confusion. Or perhaps it was the sudden, high-pitched scream from a small child, a little girl who, in the panic, had tripped and fallen on the marble floor a few yards to Seagal's left. The dog, its aggression needing a target, immediately veered away from the impassive statue and charged directly at the most vulnerable, most reactive object in its path, the crying, fallen child. The child's mother shrieked in terror, frozen in place. The hotel staff were too far away. The path was clear between the charging, 80-pound Bulldog and the helpless little girl. In that horrifying instant, Seagal moved. He didn't run. He didn't shout. He simply exploded from his state of absolute stillness into one of perfect, fluid motion. He took 2 impossibly fast, gliding steps to his left, covering the distance in a fraction of a second. He placed himself directly between the charging Bulldog and the child on the floor. He didn't adopt a fighting stance. He didn't raise his hands to strike. Instead, he did something that defied every instinct of fight or flight. He stood his ground, rooted to the spot, his body relaxed but perfectly balanced. He lowered his center of gravity, becoming one with the floor beneath him. As the dog, a blur of brown and white muscle, leaped towards him, Seagal did not prepare to meet the attack. He prepared to receive it. He looked directly into the animal's eyes, and in that moment, he projected not aggression, not fear, but an overwhelming wave of pure, unshakable, alpha calm. It was a projection of his ki, his life force, a silent, powerful command that spoke not to the dog's rage, but to the ancient, primal instinct deep within its DNA. The bulldog, mid-leap, its jaws open, was on a collision course with Seagal. To the horrified onlookers, the impact seemed inevitable. But as the dog entered the invisible bubble of Seagal's presence, something extraordinary happened. It was met with an energy it had never encountered before. It was not the fearful energy of prey, nor the challenging energy of a rival. It was an overwhelming, serene authority, a force that didn't threaten, but simply was. The dog's aggressive charge faltered in midair. Its forward momentum seemed to hit an invisible wall of pure, calm intent. Its snarl died in its throat, replaced by a confused whine. It landed awkwardly on the marble floor, its paws scrambling for purchase, its entire body language shifting from that of a predator to that of a lost and bewildered pup. It skidded to a halt just inches from Seagal's feet, its head low, its tail tucked between its legs. It looked up at the man it was supposed to attack, its eyes filled with a mixture of awe and submission. The beast had been tamed not by a whip or a chain, but by the sheer force of a master's will. The entire lobby was frozen in a state of stunned, disbelieving silence. Marcus Reed, his face a mask of utter shock, could only stammer, what the hell?" Seagal slowly, deliberately, knelt down. He moved without any sudden gestures, his energy remaining calm and non-threatening. He was now at eye level with the powerful animal. "Easy, now," he said, his voice a low, soothing rumble. "You're a good boy. You're just with a bad man." He extended his hand, palm open, towards the dog. Cupcake, who had been commanded to attack this very man, hesitated for a second, then leaned forward and gently sniffed Seagal's fingers. Then, in an act of complete surrender, the bulldog licked his hand. Seagal smiled faintly. His other hand moved with an expert's touch, finding a series of pressure points along the dog's thick neck and behind its ears. These weren't strikes, they were calming, massaging motions, techniques used by masters of both martial arts and animal handling to soothe an agitated spirit. "See," he whispered to the dog. "Peace." The bulldog let out a soft, contented sigh and slumped to the floor, rolling onto its side and exposing its belly, the ultimate sign of trust and submission. The oral landscape of the lobby was a single, collective, held breath. Marcus Reed stared, his world completely undone. His weapon, his symbol of power, the beast he used to terrorize others, was now lying at the feet of his intended victim like a devoted pet. "Cupcake! Get up! What are you doing?" Reed shrieked, his voice high and pathetic. The bulldog flicked an ear in the direction of his owner's voice, then turned its head back and rested its massive chin contentedly on Seagal's boot. Its allegiance had publicly, spectacularly, and irrevocably shifted. Reed's humiliation was absolute. It was a defeat more profound than any physical beating. His own dog had recognized Seagal as the true alpha, the true master, in the room. In front of a crowd of stunned witnesses and, presumably, his own live stream, Marcus Reed had been stripped of his power by the very creature he thought defined it. The silence was finally broken by the approaching wail of police sirens, a sound that, for Reed, now signaled not salvation, but judgment. The arrival of the real police and hotel security was a formal, almost anticlimactic postscript to the real drama. They entered the lobby to the bizarre and inexplicable scene, a notorious bulldog, known for its aggression, lying contentedly at the feet of a uniformed security guard, while its wealthy owner, Marcus Reed, stood nearby, pale and trembling with impotent rage. The hotel manager, a man named Peterson, who was also Seagal's old friend and the one who had asked for the security consultation, rushed to his side. "Steven. Are you alright? We saw the whole thing on the security monitors." "I'm fine, Robert," Seagal replied calmly, giving the Bulldog's head one last reassuring pat before standing up. "But your guest here," he nodded towards Reed, "has a problem with public endangerment." The police sergeant, taking in the scene, addressed Reed. "Sir, multiple witnesses have stated that you deliberately unleashed your animal with the command to attack. Is this true?" Reed, flustered and cornered, could only sputter. He was antagonizing me. The dog was just protecting me." A wave of derisive laughter rippled through the onlookers who remained. "Protecting you," one woman scoffed. "The dog is protecting him," she said, pointing at Seagal. The evidence was overwhelming. Multiple eyewitnesses, high-definition hotel security footage, and Marcus Reed's own live stream had documented the entire event. He was promptly arrested for public endangerment, reckless endangerment of a child, and violations of local leash laws. As he was led away in handcuffs, still protesting, he shot a look of pure hatred at Seagal. Seagal simply met his gaze with one of quiet pity. Later, as animal control officers were gently leashing the now perfectly docile Cupcake, the hotel manager, Peterson, shook his head in disbelief. "I've never seen anything like it, Steven. That dog has been a menace every time Mr. Reed has stayed here. How did you do that? What kind of training was that?" Seagal looked at the Bulldog, who turned its head to look back at him, its tail giving a slight, hopeful wag. "It's not about training the animal," Seagal explained, his voice low and philosophical. "It's about training yourself. Animals, especially intelligent ones like this, don't respond to your words. They respond to your energy. Your key." He continued, providing a lesson to the small group of security and police officers who had gathered around, listening intently. His owner projected chaos, anger, and fear. So the dog became a mirror of that chaos. I projected calm, a lack of fear, and a complete absence of aggression. The dog, faced with two conflicting signals, chose the one that resonated with its true nature, which is not to be a weapon, but to seek a stable, confident leader. Aggression is just scared energy. If you show no fear, you give its energy nowhere to go but down. It was a masterclass in martial philosophy, delivered in the opulent lobby of a hotel that had just become his dojo. Before the animal control officers took Cupcake away, Seagal had a quiet word with the lead officer. "This is not a vicious dog," he stated firmly. "This is a high-pedigree, intelligent animal that has been a victim of an abusive owner. Do not put him down." He made a quick phone call, and within minutes, had arranged for the dog to be transferred to a specialized K-9 rehabilitation facility that he personally sponsored, a place for former military and police dogs to be retrained for civilian life. He had not just saved the people in the lobby, he had saved the dog from its owner, and now from the system. He knelt one last time and whispered to the Bulldog, "You'll have a better mission now." The dog licked his hand in understanding. Marcus Reed's humiliation was complete and total. The live stream of his downfall became a viral sensation, a case study in arrogance and public failure. He faced serious legal charges, was banned for life from the entire Corinthian hotel chain, and became a pariah in the social circles he so desperately wanted to impress. The Bulldog he had used as a symbol of his power had become the instrument of his disgrace. Back in the lobby, Seagal's friend, the hotel manager Robert Peterson, approached him. "Well, your security assessment is complete, I take it?" Seagal took off the dark security jacket and handed it to him. "The biggest security threat to this hotel," he said, his eyes glinting with a hint of irony, "isn't a terrorist or a jewel thief. It's the unmanaged ego of a wealthy guest. Your locks are fine. It's your clientele you need to watch." He then turned toward the exit, his work there finished. As he stepped out into the now cool London night, he felt a sense of balance restored. He had faced a beast and had calmed it without a single blow. He had faced a bully and had dismantled him without laying a hand on him. He had proven, once again, the core tenet of his entire life's philosophy: true power, the power of a true alpha, is not the ability to command others through fear and aggression. It is the ability to command oneself, to project a peace so profound and an authority so absolute that even the most savage of beasts, whether on 4 legs or 2, recognizes its master and willingly, peacefully, submits. He got into his waiting car and disappeared into the night, a silent guardian leaving order in his wake. In a world that often mistakes noise for strength and aggression for authority, Steven Seagal's actions show us a different path. He faced down a vicious animal not with violence, but with a powerful, centered calm, proving that true mastery is about control over oneself, not others. Have you ever seen a situation de-escalated not by force, but by quiet confidence and wisdom? Share your story in the comments below. Show your respect for those who lead through peace and inner strength. If this incredible story inspired you, please like, share, and subscribe.